what is one piece of advice that you would have for anybody wanting to really develop the physique?
Don't do CrossFit. No, I'm joking.
I always swear within first 4 seconds without even knowing.
We've restarted quite a few times because of that.
So my own physique journey started when I've always trained, but I've also been that person that binge and restrict. So I'd get into some half decent shape to go on holiday, put 25 pound on, and then let it fester for a few months.
You're the only person I've ever known in that cycle that forgot to restrict.
First time I dropped 86 pound.
Any good coach needs to have done those extremes because you need to have seen both sides of the spectrum.
8 o'clock in the morning, I'll have fish and a rice cake.
Okay, welcome back to Fish and a Rice Cake, guys. I'm Jake, and only Jake this week. Unfortunately, the other Jake, the OG Jake, isn't able to join us. So I'm taking it all by myself, but I'm not going to be by myself because we've got another guest episode. So we are going to be joined today by the working, what was it on your Instagram? It was the working class coach, I think you've both got on there, which I quite like. Yeah. But we've got Sam and Will with us from Trident Coaching. So I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves a little bit before we dive into what we want to talk about today. But thanks for coming on, guys.
We'll let Sam go first.
Oh, so you can beat it. Yeah, so I'm Sam, half of Trident Coaching, maybe a third now. I'm not quite sure how that works.
I suppose by the time this comes out, it'll be a third, won't it?
Yeah, potentially. So yeah, a third of Trident Coaching. Will, I'll let you do you because I'm sure we'll get to talking about other bits during the episode.
So I'm Will. I'm other half a Trident coach. I'm still saying we're half because he's going to be below us anyway when he starts working for us. He's not a full prong yet. Well, we're not letting him be third prong in Trident, are we? We're still a pitchfork. But no, and Will been coaching for nearly 3 years now. Me and Sam have been together. Not in that sense, but we've been for just under a year since we set up Trident as a business, and yeah, everything is good. Fucking
you can swear. No, you're fine.
Yeah.
You can swear. Yeah. I would not have invited you to on if I was worried about people swearing.
Yeah, well, that way I was going to say, because in first 5 minutes on YouTube, you're not allowed to swear because they don't push it or something, do they?
It can demonetize it, I think. If you make it if you're putting videos out and getting some decent traction, it can demonetize it. But we're nowhere near that, so say what you want.
Right, Sam, I'm all right.
I mean, we're not getting royalties.
Well, you're not getting royalties, no, I'm afraid not.
I'm going home now.
We don't even get royalties.
Yeah, but no, I had to watch myself with that because when we do our podcast, even though we get one viewer, which is Tom, basically, but I always swear within first 4 seconds without even knowing. That's what I'd say worst things about me, but probably the best thing about me as well because I have no filter.
Yeah,
no, I think
you could go through the edit and bleep it out, couldn't you? But you'd probably be there all day.
We've restarted quite a few times because of that.
Have you? You've had to go again?
Or we've had Cam behind the camera going, it's all right, it's been 5 minutes.
I didn't know that 5 minute thing. I thought it was just a general, if you swore on it, that it would just straight demonetize it. But then there's some massive podcasts like Modern Wisdom and stuff where they swear all the time. So I'm like, there must be something to it. Or maybe it is the 5 minute thing, like you said, and they just make sure no one swears within 5 minutes.
Yeah. We've got him counting down like you did like that.
Just for 5 minutes.
yeah. As soon as it is 5 minutes, I'm like, yes.
Blow it all out.
Yeah,
I don't know. Me and Jake aren't bad for that. I don't think we tend to swear all that much. Every now and again, maybe, but it's not that often.
Is that what we are now? Those controversial guests, like what Stephen Bartlett and stuff has on, contradicting each other. Have you had someone last week that's actually a good coach? Now you've got us on to contradicting
the contrast.
Yeah, to lower the tone. But the swearing thing for me, I don't know why I do it. But I think it's probably just from years of working in jobs previous to this where it's with animals. And
I think, like you said, and we'll get into it, like your background and sort of what you guys were doing before coaching, but as well as you brand yourselves as the working class coach. And I think that does come as part and parcel of that. Like if you were really well spoken and thought about what you're saying, that it wouldn't quite marry up the same, would it?
No, I don't think.
I just think swearing is the best way of using language emotively. Did you ever watch Game of Thrones?
Yeah.
Not the Mountain. It's his brother with the scar on his face.
The Hound.
The Hound. That's it. When he used to say It was the most. It told you everything in that one word. It was so effective.
Just goes through, and it's like Sean Bean as well. Have you seen the compilation of him saying
Bastard.
bastard throughout like all the
Yeah.
different Sharp series and stuff?
Yeah, you bastard.
Brilliant, isn't it? Yeah, it is brilliant.
Yeah.
So we best talk about something, I guess, fitness and coaching related. So for you guys, like you said, you've been together for about a year now, coaching wise. But where did everything kick off for you? Because obviously you were both working full time before you got into coaching. So what kickstarted your own sort of physique journeys and sort of got you down into the road of not necessarily all the way to begin coaching, because we will go into that, but just kickstarted the physique side of things? What got you into training in the first place?
Yeah. So my own physique journey started when I've always trained, but I've also been that person that binge and restrict. So I'd get into some half decent shape to go on holiday, put 25 pound on, and then let it fester for a few months. And then we had kids. We had Lenny 7 years ago. And I thought that I needed to sort myself out properly at that point. I didn't want to be a fat dad. We'd go on holiday and I didn't want to be one of them parents that you saw around pool that one were overweight. And to me, it looks lazy. And that might sound horrible to some people, but I think it is. I think you're not caring enough to look after your son. So how are you going to care and look after your kids and stuff like that? Yeah. And I wanted to be able to run about with him and know that he were getting and put right things in place for him. So if he sees me and sees me as overweight and eating shit, he's going to do the same sort of thing. And so I just wanted to get in shape for that. So started to take it a little bit more serious. I think first time I dropped 86 pound, which with coach Randy. So I went from 276 down to 193 or something like that. So it were a lot that I dropped, but I looked ill. I looked really ill. And then I had a bit of a rebound following year, maintained around about 210, and then year after started working with Nath Styles.
Big Nath.
Big Nath, the Hulk. But at the time I was working with him, and I went down that route of being hardcore, if you want to call it that, at the time, just chicken and rice all the time. But I got into ridiculous shape, and it was best that I'd ever looked, and that was reason why I got into that, and then it obviously curtailed into this. I'll talk about afterwards if you want.
Yeah. What about yourself, Sam?
Well, first I just want to go back to Will's binge and restrict cycle, because you're the only person I've ever known in that cycle that forgot to restrict. You years of not restricting.
Yeah, look, I binged for a bit. I did restrict for a while. It still creeps back in, like this weekend. But...
So for me, honestly, it's not a particularly interesting story. I think I was about 14. Well, actually, as a teenager, exceptionally ugly, really ugly. And I thought, well, if I'm ugly, I'm at least going to try and get. I was also really skinny. I'm going to try and get massive. I might as well be big and ugly rather than being small and ugly. Maybe people look at my body and not my face. And yeah, I'm still here now. I'm still
still working towards it.
Yeah, no, but mine's took a lot of different phases. I've always done it. So I started out in gym doing that thing all young lads do, where you'd be there for 3 hours doing every variation of bicep curl for days and getting absolutely nowhere. I even remember getting my first tube of protein and how absolutely disgusting it was back then. And then it just continued. I can't remember because I want to say optimum nutrition, but it weren't, because that's nice.
Yeah, that's not too bad.
Maxi muscle.
It weren't maxi muscle. I know that. I can't remember what it was. One of the big ones at the time. It's not about now. But yeah, it was that. And then I've gone through different things to try in fitness, and ultimately always come back to physique development, because I am still that vain 13-year-old that wants to look better than I do, ultimately.
Yeah, I think over time, though, you start to strike a much better balance with it, don't you? I think most sort of coaches that definitely go down the physique development route, they'll all go to a degree of extremes with the diets and with the training and take it to that point. And then for the most part, sort of tend to come back towards some level of balance at some point. And then it gives you that sense of perspective to be able to help other people that are maybe either falling into that extreme or thinking that that's the extreme that they need to do for themselves to get that result, and you can sort of help pull them back a little bit. Or some just go hell for leather into it and become bodybuilding coaches and keep going with it.
Well, I mean, I needed to have that extreme when I first got into it. I needed to be regimented, doing every single meal weighed to gram and not deviating from a meal plan. Do you know, in order to get into shape?
Yeah.
And over time, I started to fall out of love with that because I needed more balance. Like having kids and a wife and stuff like that. Like you can't live that life.
You can't, but I think as well, like, and we say this about Blitz, not that everyone eats pre-prepped cold chicken and rice out of Tupperware, but the benefit of it is of going to an extreme, because you guys will see it as well. Like, there's a lot of coaches that will preach that like going to extremes is unhealthy, it's bad for your relationship with food and all this, and there is certainly a danger of doing that if it's not done right. But I don't think you can strike a good balance with your physique development and your lifestyle until you've been to an extreme, because otherwise you don't know what a balance looks like. Like, you've got to go past that point for a period of time to then be able to be like, right, I can pull that back a bit and maintain this because I was able to do that, so I can easily maintain this lower amount of volume or restrictness or whatever it is with your diet. So I think there's definitely lessons in it.
Well, yeah, 100%.
Any good coach needs to have done those extremes, because you need to have seen both sides of the spectrum. The more different sort of extremes you try, the more experience you get. You're never going to get experience like you have from doing it yourself, learning from your own mistakes. So once you've done that, you can then advise clients that actually this is the pitfalls that I found with that, and I've seen it firsthand. It's not just, oh, I've heard this happens and that happens. You've got a much more varied approach there.
Yeah. And I put a post out about this the other day, literally saying that, like, you can kind of sit there and be like, you know, I know how to get people into shape. I shouldn't have to be in amazing shape myself to be able to help people. And there's an argument to that. But then at the same time, if you've never had the experience of actually doing it yourself and going through and walking the walk and doing a photo shoot or doing a show or whatever it is you want to do, you're not going to be as good a coach as you can be, because you can't empathize fully with how it feels to go through it, the struggles, like everything like that of that process. And it's why, like I spoke about last year, I jumped on and did a show last minute, and it was literally just because I'd prepped a couple of people for shows that were like long-term clients that had decided they want to do one. And I was like, okay, as long as you know I've not competed before, like, and you're happy with that, cool, let's go ahead, we'll do it. And they did pretty well. So when it got to the point of me being lean enough to do one, I was like, do you know what? I might as well just jump in and get it done. I know I'm not going to pursue it, but at least then I've got the experience of having done a show. I know what it feels like and everything like that. So that if I do have any other clients that want to do one, I've got that level of experience to be able to do it a bit more confidently and kind of be able to tick that box. I think it does make a world of difference.
100%, yeah. And at the same time, like, you're going to have clients who come into this when we all do a macro friendly approach, but you've got to tell them to go to extremes at some time to get in shape. And like I said, you are going to eat probably a bit of cold chicken and rice from time to time just for convenience. Like, there's nothing sexy about dieting. Like, you can try and jazz it up all you want, but there are going to be times if you're wanting to get into really good shape, whether it be for a photo shoot, your wedding, holiday, whatever you're wanting to do, you're going to have times where you are eating more bodybuilder style meals just to fucking get through it.
It
is trying to balance, isn't it? Because the better your food looks, chances are the hungrier you're going to be, because it is going to be more processed. It's going to be more dense food sources, so you're going to get less of it. So you want those plain foods. So it might not taste as good, but you're chewing for longer. You're going to feel a bit fuller.
Yeah. And having that routine, like, it does take out the sort of mental energy of having to decide what you're going to eat, plan what you're going to eat, get all different ingredients and try and make it fit your macros. Like, we'll say to the guys, and we are saying them on Blitz at the minute because they're like 6 weeks out from shoots, you should pretty much be eating the same thing every single day. Weekends, you might be a little bit more flexible and have days out, whatever, but day to day, you should be eating pretty much the same thing. It should look pretty much the same. You should know what's coming up, because it's just not just because that's what you have to do. Is like, just from a routine point of view, an energy point of view, it's just going to make life so much easier for yourself.
Convenience. Like, we both do prepping now for our shoot in. We never know whether we've got 14 weeks or 15 weeks left, but we've got and like, other than this weekend, because we've been to Dublin for his wedding anniversary, for the last couple of weeks, like, my food has been 4 out of 5 meals is exactly the same every single day. The only difference is whatever we're having for as tea, because Beth will make that, because I'm cook at night. I refuse to. That's not a chauvinistic thing. It's just I'm fucking not cooking for 4 people. So she'll make that, and I just make that fit, and then change my last meal to suit whatever we've had there. But it's convenience throughout the day of sticking to the same thing. Like,
yeah, it's definitely that, mate. So, with you both then, when was that tipping point? Obviously, you'd gone through sort of your own physique journeys up to a point and got into really good shape. What was the tipping point for you then deciding that you wanted to then get into the coaching side of things and sort of take it a bit more seriously in terms of actually doing it as a job?
Again, you've been in it longest, so I'll let you go first.
right, sound. So for me, like years ago before, like I were always going to be into some form of coaching or something like that, because years ago before all this, I was training to be a professional golfer, like a teaching professional. And I fell out of a golf buggy and snapped my leg.
How did you manage that?
Because my brother's a fucking psychopath. No, so at the time I was like 21 and a half stone. That's back in my Pat Butcher days when I was massive. We're coming through this path and buggy hit something and tilted, and my leg come out and got stuck in fence, and my brother carried on driving, and then it just snapped my shin. So I was always going to, and it was like 2 weeks out before I was supposed to do my PGA playing exam. And that was going to be my career, coaching people how to be better at golf. So I always knew I'd get into something like this. But then once I'd started to get into good shape, I remember being at Ultraflex with my old training partner, Joe, and they had a thing up for CP education, like mentorship thing. And I just said it as an off-the-cuff comment. I says, if I ever won that lottery, that's 10 grand a month, 10 grand a week for rest of your life.
Oh, yeah.
Set for life thing. Like, if I ever won that, I says, I'd probably have a go at coaching. I says, because I like it. And Joe's like, why don't you do it now? And I'm like, because where would I start? And he's like, well, you already know enough, like from us training together and like just having a general interest in health and nutrition and stuff like that at that point. He's like, give it a go. And I like never thought about it. And then he texted me that night. He's like, are you going to do it or what? And I'm like, fucking hell. And then pushed me down route, and I went into it straight away. And then it just took off for me very quickly. Probably because I'd gone from you've seen with picture wear or massive with bleach blonde hair and Gemma Collins to then being in really good shape. And a lot of people already knew me around area that we live because I was a fucking idiot growing up. So I got to know a lot of people. So when they saw my journey, they were like, oh, you've done that. How can you help me? And so I got quite a few people come in. So that were it for me. It was just an off the cuff thing of, yeah, I would like to do it, but I didn't think it were feasible at the time until Joe pushed me down route.
Yeah. Probably the best thing that's ever happened then, by the sounds of it.
Yeah, it's fucking hell. I still text him like now, like every now and again when Joe ate a new number of clients and stuff like that. And I'm like, he's like, I knew you'd do it, mate. And I'm like, I didn't. Like, I didn't. Now it just fucking blows my head, like to be where we are now.
Yeah. What about yourself, Sam?
So for me, obviously I started training when I was young, and I am just very anal and sort of blinkers on. So when I get into something, like I want to know every single thing about it, and it's all I read about, it's all I watch. So I was taking stuff on all the time. I used to do my own diets, and I'd be like really prescriptive with it. Like I'd do it in an Excel sheet, like my own diet, and I know exactly what we're having. I'd hold myself accountable, but then I'd always get swayed on like I'd see like something about keto, and I'd be like, maybe I should try that, and then I'd try something else. And I became a psychiatric nurse, and I worked in that for years. And my mum and dad were always like, "Oh, you've got a really good job, blah blah." And I became like hospital manager, so like senior management in this full hospital. And then a separate story, but both parents died. And I kept seeing people who I'd trained with at Ultraflex, and I knew like, oh, becoming coaches and got all your transformation. And I'm like, I hate being a nurse. Like I absolutely hated every second of every day. I used to hate the thought of going to work. I used to hate going to work. And I waited for that kid coming home from work saying I had to go back. Like it was awful. I was so depressed. And I remember seeing the CP stuff from Hawksworth. And I messaged him saying, I want to do my level 2 and 3 because I want to be a PT because I need something different to get me out of this. But I quite like helping people. And I've seen them do it. So I'm pretty sure if they can do it, I can do it. Because like when I talked to them, like the stuff I was doing way more in depth than what they were doing. And like they'd be missing stuff in it. So I did it with Ben. And And he said, don't bother being level 2 and 3. You don't need to be an online coach because clearly what we're talking about. So like, just start. So I just started, and I went back and got my level 2 and 3 after. So I've got that now. Like, but yeah, I just started, and I still remember coming into my housemate at the time and my girlfriend and saying, someone's just paid me to coach him. Like, I could not believe it. You're like 50 quid now. Like, somebody's just give me 50 quid to do this for a month. Like, it's amazing.
It's a mad feeling, isn't it?
Yeah, and then it would just, yeah. I don't think I shut up about it for like a week. Just that someone's paid me. As it turned out, the guy that
you still don't know when somebody pays you.
It's like I'm shocked every time someone signs up. I'm like, someone just signed up. Like,
yeah.
Oh, I think the delivery come. Oh. But yeah, so that was it really, and it just sort of continued from there. And then stopped nursing, quit the hospital, and went full time. And I've never looked back. Deregistered as a nurse. Like, didn't even wait for it to lapse. I actively emailed them and said, "Take me off the register. I don't ever want to be a nurse again. Like, take me off."
Yeah.
So they took me off before it was even due to come off. And that was it. I would never look back. But the reason I mentioned about my parents dying is I would never have done it if they were still here, because they were like, stupid jump. It's don't do it, don't risk it. Whereas then I was like, might as well try it. Fuck it, life's too short. So I tried it, never looked back.
Yeah, yeah. It's
turning point was meeting me, weren't it?
I was going to say
that made me come back a couple of times. That made me consider going to nursing.
Yeah. I do question. Well, how long have you two known each other? Has it been quite a while?
No.
I think it'll be about 2 years in March.
Yeah, very specific. I'm quite surprised you don't know the day, if I'm honest.
Yeah, like we always say that Sam's got autism, but there's something in me that I'm like Rain Man. I remember every day, what pants he were wearing, everything.
You're gonna go back to Dublin for anniversary?
Yeah, we might do. But no, it were around about March time, because I'd you'd signed on with Ben at that point, and they'd put us into a WhatsApp group, so everyone were talking, and then Sam started posting some stuff, and I just remember talking to him about the stuff we were posting and that, and then there were me, Sam, another guy, James, who'd got his own little group where we were talking quite regular on it, and then it snowballed from there. I think I joined Mike first dinner, and we went and trained together, and that was the first time we'd met in person as well. Like, fucking, I remember giving Sam a hug, and he looked very awkward about me grabbing hold of him.
I'm not such a...
Yeah, he's like, going right back. But he were dieting down at the time, so all his face looked like a fat kid eating a crackhead. But that was the first time we met, and then I told him that I'd signed up with Mike, and he went, like, I think that evening, messaged Mike straight away, like, because I'd signed up, so he did, and then it sort of snowballed from there, our relationship, didn't it? Because we were working under Mike, so we were texting all the time about what we were doing. Set up that first transformation challenge where there were 3 of us. That's why obviously we're Trident at the time, obviously being 3. And then just went from strength to strength. We saying we could do more together, weren't it?
Yeah, I think we were very similar in what we wanted, in the way we worked, but then almost the exact opposites in terms of strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah, it seems to work really well. Similar to sort of the with Dan and Mike, with how they're quite complementary of each other's sort of attributes, aren't they, and what the strengths and weaknesses are.
We had this exact conversation last week. We went up to Sam's to do some work, and I were writing something out, and then he sort of proofread it. He's like, the creative side of things I can do quite well, but then he needs to just look over and do finer tunings, whereas technical side of things, like I am, well, as you already know, I can't use technical side of things when I try to even log on to this. Like, so he'll do that. Sam's very good with Canva, with emailing and all that side of things, which I'm useless at. But then I'm better at some other things, and like sometimes putting ideas together, and then we just snowball from there. So it does complement each other quite well. But Sam was hesitant when we first got together.
I say that all the time. God, you see,
he played it coy.
No, what?
Shitting it.
No, so I didn't understand it because it's really clear. I am massively anal. I fully accept that. And I'm very black or white. And he kept saying, "Let's go together." I kept saying, "Yeah, but why?" And he kept saying, "Because we work better together." I'm saying, "Yeah, but what's going to change? All we're going to do is risk end up falling out. What is going to change apart from we're going to have the same name? We're still going to do everything like we already talk all the time now. So why go?" And I couldn't get it. And even Mike were like, "Yeah, I think you should." I kept saying to Mike, "But why? What is it going to change? I don't understand why this whole thing is to go together, because you see it now from the coaches and they'll use the same name, but absolutely nothing else is in sync, and it just doesn't make sense at all. I still look at them and I'm like, why are you going together? You essentially, this sounds really bad, but you're two shit coaches, and now you're just two shit coaches together. It's not changed anything. Whereas, and I didn't get that for us. Whereas for us, it has actually changed quite a lot. We now work very differently. Much better at the bigger picture stuff, if that makes sense, and driving it as a brand and a company, I guess. And equally, because it sort of went from being just two mates. It does sound like a relationship. We've gone almost exclusive.
Well, it is though, isn't it? It is.
Well, to be fair, Sam got a better birthday post on Instagram than what my wife did, and she got face on about it. She was fucking fuming. And then on his wedding anniversary, she got 3 lines, and she was like, "You wrote this big fucking piece for Sam. Why don't I get that?" I went, "I prefer him to you." It's just I've been with you for 10 years. I'm fucking bored.
It's interesting, isn't it, how that sort of dynamic comes out? Because it's similar with me and Jake. We're actually just really similar. We're both pretty good on Canva and sheets, and we're both pretty organized and whatnot. But it works really well to bounce ideas off of each other. And certainly for me, I'm a bit more like you. So I'm really, really almost anal with everything. There's a spreadsheet for everything. Planning everything out. Even with a podcast, I'll send Jake messages at sometimes if I can't sleep on a night, if there's ideas in my head, I'll message him at midnight, and I'll be like, I know you're not going to read this because I know you're fast asleep, but if I don't send them now, they'll go out my head and I won't remember. And I'll be like, what if we do this? What if we do this? And he'll message me back the next day, just being like, "Mate, you're overthinking things. I don't think we need to worry about that. I think we need," and it's quite useful because I know I've said to him myself, my brain sometimes will run away with it with me if I get an idea in it, and I won't be able to get it out of my head. So I was like, "You're going to have to be able to just tell me to shut the fuck up and just pull me back and focus on what we're doing." And he's had to do it 2 or 3 times with the podcast, because I'm always like, "Oh, we'll try this." So it's quite nice how you naturally sort of grow into those roles, and you have each other there to sort of lean on, don't you?
Yeah, I think that's how it has been for us as well. There's times when we start to lose his head over certain stuff. Sometimes if clients aren't coming in, amount of times that I've took Sam off a ledge for stuff has been crackers. But then at the same time, I've needed him with stuff, but I've not had stuff going right. Or sometimes I'll be putting content out, and we proofread a lot of his own stuff at times. So he'll send me some stuff. "Do you fancy having a look at this for me? What would you change?" I'll send it to him, and it helps having that person. But I was and he was saying he couldn't see bigger picture at time of what it would have got for us to work together, whereas I could. I saw where I wanted. I'd got in my head where I wanted things to go with group coaching. I'd got where I wanted it to go with my own coaching. We'd been able to have another coach working under me, and I felt like if me and him worked together, we'd both benefit from it. And I think first few months we were just sort of finding his feet with things. Then we got into a rhythm of every single Thursday working together, and then planning for we've planned for a year in advance with what we're already doing. We know exactly where we are with stuff, and he's probably made me more organized with what I'm doing, because I think in the first couple of Tridents that we did, you said it last week, didn't you? Our slack. But I were working full time as well at the same time, which I'm using as an excuse. I was working full time and I had 50 online clients at the same time. But I'm not now. If he says to me, "Right, we've got this to be done today," I just fucking crack on with it. That is what we're supposed to do. And that's how it's supposed to work, I think, between us. Yeah. And if I send him out, he's like, "Right, I'll do that now." And an hour later, it's that's done. So
yeah, the amount of times I've sat up till midnight doing stuff, and you've got random messages saying, "Are you up? Could you jump on a call?" And then I'm morning "No, I'm somehow in bed." But it becomes a thing when you've got someone else counting on you, it's not just that I need to get it done. I am going to get it done. I'm going to get it done today, and I'm going to get it to a good standard. And you won't stop until it's there, because you don't want that other person to have to say, "Well, come on now, please wait a bit." So it gives you that accountability, which
I think what helps us as well is we get it done early, so then we can go back to things. Like stuff's not put out and it's going out that day. It's right. We've already done all process for next group coaching that's going out. Every single post is written already. But then, like next week, we'll probably look back through it all again. Shall we change this? And that's why I think things have got better as we move forward as well.
Yeah, I mean, from a creative point of view, I try and do that all the time, even just with like emails and stuff. Like try and write them a day or two in advance at least, so that because you have a fresh set of eyes, don't you, when you come back to stuff and you see it and you're like, oh, that makes no sense. That doesn't really tie into what I was saying at the start. And that's just downright spelt wrong, which for me is the case 9 times out of 10. So yeah, it's definitely useful. And it's me and Jake do the same. So if I'm having a shit day, I'll be messaging him, or like if he's having or if either of us I'm like difficulty with a few clients, like he'll send me videos of like his checking responses of being like, can you just listen to this, mate, and just see if I've been a bit of a dick or if I've been not been enough of a dick to like help push someone on. And it does make the world of difference having someone there, which obviously like I never came into biceps as a duo with Jake. I just came into under the brand, and then obviously over time as other coaches have left and there's just me and Jake now running up biceps, it's kind of just fallen into that pattern and it's started to work really well. So since moving on, you guys have sort of been working together now as part of Trident. What would you say with all the clients that you work with, because I know you guys are hella busy like you were saying at the start, what's one of the biggest mistakes you see people generally making with fat loss before they come into like a coaching process?
Before they come into a coaching process, for me, it's basically trying to run before you can walk. If that makes sense. Everybody comes in with this idea of, right, I'm going to lose a little bit of weight, I'm going to eat clean, and they take the chicken and broccoli approach because that's what people think you're supposed to do. They'll restrict all the calories, they'll start to do a shitload of cardio, and 3 weeks down the line they've sacked it all off because it's boring, it's too restrictive, and they're not seeing the 12 stone loss in 3 weeks that they're expecting. To me, that's setting unrealistic expectations from what they're doing when they first come in, not getting the basics right.
Yeah, I think for me, it's people just reading into Instagram and all the stuff that people are saying on there for clickbait, for things that have worked for them. And it sounds like I'm putting us on a pedestal in terms of coaches knowing best, but they've not got this unbiased view. It's people who've tried one approach, it's worked, and gone, that is exactly what you need to do. Carnivore can. He's clearly never tried anything other than carnivore. So now he's 100% carnivore is the best thing in the world.
Yeah.
We all know it's stupid, but people see that, and because he is convincing, he's got conviction with it, they believe it. So they think they've got to do that, or they think they've got to do all these little movements that all the Ultraflex boys do, where you've got to lay on the floor to do lateral raises, and you've got to do all this like stuff that it's just not necessary. So they miss the big things because they're still going out on the weekend and just sacking it all off and doing what they want, or they're having an avocado and thinking health, and I'm going to lose fat for that. And because they're focusing on these little intricate details that actually don't make a bit of difference. And I think because people are so good at selling themselves on Instagram now, anything that anyone says is suddenly the biggest thing that you need to worry about. And actually most of it is they've just run out of good ideas for content. So they're just recording stuff for the sake of doing it, but doing it well.
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
Look at Eddie Abu at a minute. Like amount of messages I get from clients about, is this right? I'm like, do not fucking listen to him. Just do not listen to him. But like Steve said, he speaks with conviction. Like you've already done loads of videos about Eddie Abu, and you, Jake. I've seen them all. I know your thoughts on him, but like because he speaks with conviction, people believe it. And like, no, there's better ways. There's more than one way to skin a cat as well.
Like, is there actually a difference?
What, between what Eddie says and what Carnivore Cam says?
Yeah, like the carnivore diet. Is that not just what Eddie Abu does?
No. He's just like strictly just pretty much like keto and single ingredient whole foods. There's basically, if it's anything processed or if it's been touched at any point, you don't go near it. And I think he fasts as well for like 3/4 of the day or something like that. So it's
apparently it fixes his neuropathy every time he does it, but yeah, he's still got neuropathy.
Yeah.
I don't get how it can keep getting better but not be gone. Like,
it comes back on the morning though. Fixes it for the end of the day. It just comes back on the morning. But no, you're right, and it's like, and I think that's why it's so important, because a lot of the time, like, because I'm like, so me and Soph right now, I'm filming this in our spare room. We're in a 2-bed flat. So, and she works from home as well. So she hears me recording content all day. And she said all the time, like, she's like, you're literally just pretty much saying the same thing all the time in different ways, aren't you? And it's like, yeah, that's all we're doing. We're saying pretty much the same stuff, but just in different ways, because you're saying it different ways, it might land different, but it's mainly because there's so many people on social saying so much shit and putting so many different spins and messages out there. And like you said before, Sam, like when you see, it's like shiny object syndrome. You see something new and it's instantly like, oh, I've not been doing something wrong, then I'm not at fault. It's because I've not been following this new plan or this new exercise. It's, it's not down to me. This is going to work for me. And it needs people there to just be like, no, this is what works. This is what still works. This is what works last week. And it's what's going to work next week. And even though it's the same message and it can get boring, it's what people need to hear, like just the same thing, just to give them that stability. And hopefully over time, it's just like chipping away to the point where they're like, all right, maybe actually it is just as simple as this. And I need to stop fucking about with all the different Eddie-aboos of the world and carnivore cams and everything like that.
They're creating cults, aren't they? That's what they are.
That's what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, which if you read any sort of like business book, like the Russell Brunson books, the funnel business and everything, the funnel books, their literal messages build a cult following, like have something that separates from you, have people you're against, and then basically build a cult like following around you to build a business off of it. Right? It's a good business. It's arguably not that ethical, but
it does make you wonder though, like how much can you actually care about people if you're specifically narrowing on one thing that you don't necessarily believe, just to get that following. Can you really be trusted to give that good advice, considering you're willing to change your views to get people to like you?
Well, it's that, and it's either they know that what they're chatting is shit, but they don't care because they're making some money off of it, so they don't need to worry about it, or they've just not done enough of their own education and they don't actually know what they don't know, so they believe that the limited knowledge that they do have is all they need to know, and it's the answer to everything, and they've not actually spent any time learning anything more. It's one of the two. They're both as bad as each other because it's either just arrogance or ignorance, really, and at the end of the day, from it.
I think did you know that Eddie Aboo in his gym actually sells Monster energy drinks, protein shakes, everything behind counter, like in a fridge, not like under the counter, like opening his overcoat,
opening his jacket,
like a grenade bar.
He's got some fucking backstreet grenade bars.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to know what that though, wouldn't it? I've never thought about that.
So he's so convicted to it and pulls everyone apart, but he sells them. He's not money off them.
Yeah.
That's the other thing that really bugs me about him, and it's more obvious with him, but you see it with a lot of guys now on Instagram where they will do something new and then put all their success down to that when it's just not the case.
Yeah.
Because he was a world-class bodybuilder, he's now doing this and still showing pictures of him as a world-class bodybuilder and think, well, I can look like that doing this.
Yeah.
But he didn't look like that doing this because he wasn't doing this when he looked like that. It was a very different thing.
They also forget he was taking 2 grams of Trident. Fucking
yeah, but that's not what was ruining his health, was it? It was the processed food. That's what was fucking him
up. Them bagels from Aldi that fucking did him. Not Trend Test Master on Cyprinate D-ball. That did no.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, isn't it? I guess that's sort of my next question was going to be, which we've kind of already covered, is comparison to that. And what do you reckon some of the biggest mistakes are that you see other coaches making in the industry? But I guess we've kind of touched on that, really.
Jump on trends, like they all jump on trends and things like that. And then the ones trying to overcomplicate everything, like to make themselves sound better. But then it comes back to that education thing, what you were saying. Like sometimes people who are probably a bit thick, they learn one thing and will preach about it as if they know everything about it, but they don't, and it doesn't make sense. That's one of the things that there's a coach who I know who's got everybody at minute doing abs every single day before every single session because that's the best way to tighten your core. This is the best way to tighten your core because he competed and his midsection weren't good enough, so he's doing it now before every session. But I'm like, the last 40, 50 years, every bodybuilder from like 1960s with Sergio Olivier, Arnold, Frank Zane, none of them did abs before training. Ronnie Coleman never did abs every single morning. If I wanted my biceps to be better, I wouldn't train biceps every single day. First off, I'd maybe put more emphasis on them, like at certain points of my training, but I wouldn't fucking do it every single day.
Yeah, there's a lot of bias in it. I think that's the problem, is people just doing what they believe to be working for them and just spouting it out to all the clients. And you see it, especially in the bodybuilding world, you see it all the time, don't you?
But I think that is that tenfold, because not only are you listening to what they think works for them, clearly they've already demonstrated that what they think works doesn't work. So now they're trying something else that's not been proven to work yet, but you've all got to do that because that's going to be the new one to work. At least see if it works for you first, like get the experience. But I think you said the biggest mistake or the biggest thing with coaching for me, I think take it back a bit. I think coaching has become a bit of a shit show, if I'm honest, in that I regularly get guys messaging me now saying, how did you become a coach? What did you do? How can I become a coach? And I'm like, well, are you being coached? No. Have you ever been coached? No. How can you expect to coach someone you don't know what coaching looks like? You see people like us, and I think this is, if I'm honest, and Mike said this to me before, and he said, please don't take offense, but the reason that at times I've got clients who really like come on board and just don't change anything, like, why am I not getting results? Is because I think the CEOs, as like the working class coach, and think they look a bit thick. If they can do it, I can do that. Easily I can do that. And it makes it look a bit too achievable, but they're seeing it as if, and it's all these coaches saying, like, making out like, oh, I'm working in Dubai, I'm working around Paul, I'm doing this. Whereas you've just said you're sat in your spare bedroom and you're probably in there 10 hours a day most days.
Literally, yeah. I get up at 6. I'm sat in here for 7 o'clock and I leave here at about 6, 7 in the evening.
Yeah, exactly the same.
I come in before kids go to school, like into garage, start working. I'll go back in, get kids ready for school, take them to school, come back out here. Like then when I've picked them up from school, I'll have to sit at a kitchen table and do it. There's like the people think it's glamorous. We don't leave this fucking house ever. Like, and then when we do leave house, I'm wanting to get back home to do something because I've got ideas in my head. Like about the times I text him when I'll be out shopping or something with Beth, and I'll be sending him messages about, oh, what about this? What about this? And then he's texting me, and I just want to get home and fucking sitting here. Like it's just. I think
there's so many people trying to get into it for the wrong reason, and I think this is why. So my view has quite strongly become now that I think I don't think coaches need to be in shape right now, but I think you need to have been in some shape at some point to be able to
100%.
coach people. I think that's because there are so many people trying to get into the industry with absolutely no knowledge. They don't like the trade, and they probably don't train. They've not got results themselves or other people's, but see it as a way to make easy money and then sell people a load of shit and bring coaching down in general. That now I'm like, well, you don't like any clients, you don't like any shape. I don't really understand what business you've got coaching, which is quite a negative view, but I think you need to see something. Like, you shouldn't be trying to get people to give you your money just because. It's like the business mentors that no doubt message, or video editors and real people that message us like 4 or 5 times a day. I want to edit your stuff. You've got 3. I'm going to teach you how to grow your following. You've got 4 followers. Why am I going to listen to you? But people fall for it, and then it almost, oh well, you're not worth X amount because coaching shit. No, that coach was shit. Like, coaching is not. And I think the way that we do it is very different to the way that a lot of people do it. So on this note, I got a client week before last. She'd been coached, and she sent me the diet that she was on, and it was, the fact I can remember it says everything really. Meal 1 was 3 eggs, a certain amount of plum tomatoes or cherry tomatoes, little ones, and a certain amount of mushrooms. Meal 2 was 200 grams of Greek yogurt, some frozen berries with some whey mixed in. Meal 3 was 60 grams of whey. There was no meal 4. She came to me, she started off, and I put on like 600 cardio. She sent me a picture saying she's done it. She was like, I reckon I can do that every day. I'm like, no, it's your first week. That's in a week. She's like, yeah, but
I've had that so many times.
With this much cardio, and I'm like, that's not normal. Like, the fact that you're prepared to do that, and you think you've got to do that to get a result, like, you have been absolutely stitched up here. Like,
yeah, I've had that a few times. The exact same thing. I've programmed someone like 500 calories from cardio for the week, and they've messaged me at the end, or I've messaged them at the end of the week, being like, "How are you getting on? Is everything going okay?" And they're like, "Yeah, it's good." It's like, but I'm not gonna lie, I'm really gonna struggle with cardio going forward. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, it's not that much. And they're like, I just can't do 500 calories a day. I've done it for this week, but I'm spending all day on the Stairmaster. And I'm literally like, you've literally done a week of 500 a day. I'm like, how? I'm like, fair play to you, but that is not what you need to do.
You've done 7 weeks of cardio.
Is the norm.
I had, similar to Sam, I had a girl who come on with me from another coach. She'd been with for 18 months. She had a meal plan, sent it through to me what she'd got on Kahunas. Like, one of meals were fish, avocado, and a wrap. I'm like, what the fucking hell? Why are you putting them 3 in a in concoction together as one. And I says, how long have you been eating this for? And she's like 16 months. I'm like, you've stuck to that for 16 months. And then first week after, obviously, we put her into macros. She's got used to doing it. She went, I can't believe like how I've managed to survive for this long. And we've seen more progress in 4 weeks than she has done in the last 6 months.
Yeah.
And like somewhere on about like delivering and stuff like that. Like she said she wouldn't hear anything for like sometimes not even get a check-in.
It's mad, isn't it?
If I'm like, obviously we went away this weekend, and so I was behind on Monday, getting back early hours at morning. So I had to do all Trident check-ins first thing Monday morning. Then I have 37 check-ins on a Monday to do. So I got towards end of day, it got to like 8 o'clock, and I'm like, I can't fucking look at screen anymore.
Yeah.
7 left to do. So I just texted them all. I said, look, I'm really sorry. Can I do it tomorrow morning? They're like, yeah, because it's a one-off. Like, I don't like leaving work.
Yeah.
I'm not fucking responding to somebody.
It's nuts, isn't it? I know I've heard from loads of coaches where they've had coaches themselves, or even just past clients who have had coaches, and they've literally been like, oh yeah, I'd message them and they just wouldn't reply for like a week, or they'd reply in my feedback, but my feedback was 6 days later, and it was like a 30-second voice note of just, yeah, don't worry about that, crack on. I eat 30 grams less of rice this week, speak to you next week. And it's literally just like but like you say, it comes down to the reasons why people get into it. Like I've had conversations with people who were like, oh, I'm looking at getting into coaching and I just wanted a bit of advice. And I always say, well, why do you want to do it in the first place? And if they ever say, oh, I just really love training, I'm like, that's not a bad thing. I was like, but if you're not in it to actually help people, you're in the wrong job, because ultimately your job is helping people. Your job isn't training. And I think a lot of people get into it as a way of facilitating a lifestyle of just training and focusing on themselves. But you guys, without knowing it, like, have set yourselves up for it perfectly, because like you said, you'd already had the experience of going to the extremes. You'd already walked the walk with it all, got into class shape, and you're already like known and well liked in your area. People know you. Like, you're in the perfect position, like Sam, your background in nursing, to literally go into this kind of job and do very well of it, like you both have, because of the experience that you've got.
I think you've got to have a vested interest in more than just training, though, as well.
Yeah,
like
100%.
Before this, when I were in my old job working for Stannard, I spent a lot of time driving around the country. So I was listening to podcasts, but I was listening to about training, about nutrition, about like everything to do with it, because I were interested, not because I wanted to learn from education, because I weren't even going to do this. It was just, I liked listening to it because for my own knowledge, like Sam said, he'd sit up on YouTube working out whether he was going to be keto, paleo, carnivore, vegan, whatever were going to be best thing for him, just because he were interested. And I think you've got to have more than just, oh well, I like going to gym.
Yeah, I quite enjoy driving, but you're not driving. Sorry, but you're not going to see me at the F1 this year. Like, how much I like it.
Imagine that messaging Mercedes. Have you got any spare seats in the car? I quite like driving, so I reckon.
Yeah, but I've heard Lewis was going. You did a replacement.
It's nuts, but it's just one of those things. Like, you get it in every industry, don't you? You've just sort of got to be smart with who you're listening to, and like you guys have said, like all the background listening and education and stuff that you've done, 90% of that doesn't then get used in the content that you put out, because a lot of it's not relevant. Like, if you overcomplicate stuff, it's just not useful for people, because it then just forces them, or it doesn't force them, but it leads them to focus on the wrong things and the majoring in the minors, instead of just putting out that consistent message of, this is how simple it needs to be. It's not easy, but it's simple. This is what you need to do if you want to get a result, and just keep doing it and keep showing up. So we'll finish on one final question, which we ask everybody, is what is one piece of advice that you would have for anybody wanting to really develop the physique?
Don't do CrossFit. No, I'm joking. Be consistent in whatever you're doing. Be consistent for long enough, because if you're consistent, doesn't matter what you're doing, you will get a result. It might not be in the direction you want, but something will happen with consistency. If you're driving a car and you drive over one pothole, you might not get a puncture. But you do it consistently, you are guaranteed you are going to get a puncture. Like, something is going to happen over time. So be consistent and judge it from there. Don't just keep swapping and changing. Just pick something, stick to it for a long time, and then make a judgment.
I'm just going to get an answer like most coaches in industry and just copy Sam. No, but I already said, you give yourself time. Like, you aren't going to build anything in 6 weeks. You start to get better habits, but it takes longer if you want to build a proper physique, whether it's getting in ridiculous shape or building muscle. You've got to get time and be consistent with it throughout.
Yeah.
Can I redo my answer? I've got a better one.
You what?
I've got a better answer. Can I redo my answer?
Yeah, go for it.
Yourself even thicker now.
I'm only going to cut everything out and just leave in you saying don't do CrossFit. So that's all that's going in the episode. Actually, do what you want now.
That's close to home. That's close to home. Stop planning in for your best week and trying to. And this is something that I've done or gone wrong with previously. Is you think, yeah, I can just fit that in, and then I can just fit that in, and like, yeah, I can manage. It's only 10 minutes a day, and before you know it, you've got something that is completely unachievable. Planning for what you can do on your worst week, what is realistic. Be honest with yourself. What are you actually going to do? And if that's 3 training sessions, that's fine. But then do that consistently. Don't keep going above it when you can, because then your normal week is going to be seen as a failure. Make your best week your normal week.
100%. And like an analogy I use for clients sometimes along the sort of lines of consistency and everything like that is if you're stood at the bottom of a hill, if I said to you, right, I want you to walk to the top of the hill, but for every time you take 6 steps forwards, just take 1 step back. So you're still going to get to the top of the hill. It's going to take a bit longer, but that 1 step back is not going to undo all the other 6 steps that you've previously done. And I think that's the problem people have is they try and be consistent, but the second it goes off plan for a weekend or whatever, a couple of days, they're just like, oh, well, the last 4 weeks of work is completely out the window now, so fuck it. And they just sack it on, walk back down to the bottom of the hill. So it's just having that long-term goal in it of just, if it goes to shit, it goes to shit. Pick yourself back up, keep moving forward.
Yeah, I think that people try to run up the hill, and then as soon as they're out of breath, like you said, they walk back down.
Yeah. Or is it, I've heard Mike say before, which is quite a good one as well, is like when people are changing their approach halfway through, and it's like running a marathon, getting halfway, and then turning around and trying to do the last half backwards. Like, you don't need to do it. What's got you to the halfway point will get you to the end. You just need to keep going with it, which is always a good one. But no, lads, that's been class. Thank you so much for both of you coming on. Where can people find you both, apart from in your house? Don't give your address.
Come around here, fucking hell. I ain't seen anyone for 3 weeks, other than my kids. So Instagram, it's Will_Trident Coaching.
And Sam_Trident Coaching.
We do have a podcast. It's shit, and we haven't done any for a little bit, but we are planning the next 8 to 10 episodes anyway. So that's going to be coming back. It's 2 twats and a tripod.
I do love that name. I think it's a brilliant name.
Yeah, well, I couldn't think it will fit in, weren't it? We should have had it as a Trident, but we didn't have enough resources to buy a Trident.
They're expensive Trident props, like proper Aquaman things. They're like 100 odd quid.
Yeah. Are they really?
It's either that or an inflatable one, and it just looks crap.
Yeah.
To be fair, I think an inflatable one would fit better for us.
Probably fit the branding a bit better.
Yeah. But yeah, that's it. And then give us a follow and join our group coaching. It's very good.
Spot on, guys. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
All right, guys. We will catch you in the next one.